because that brings us to Richmond, which is where I wanted to start tonight. We've got lots to get through and really good, exciting stuff. But the Tigers are in a really interesting situation, and I just wanted to raise this tonight. So Benny Gale becomes a target, been a wonderful CEO. Peg O'Neill, the Premiership president, has gone now. And then we go to Damien Hardwick. So this Richmond Footy Club sitting at 1 win, 5 losses and a draw. Let me just say this off the top. If Damien Hardwick wants to coach Richmond next year, he coaches Richmond. I think he's absolutely sensational. No one's saying he's getting sacked. I'm not trying to chase him out. But the question is, should he? And that's what I want to raise tonight. And should he be looking at perhaps the experiences of his old mate, Alistair Clarkson at the Hawthorn Football Club, and the similarities between the two clubs at this particular state in time, after having enormously successful periods, are quite stunning. This is 3 years after the flag. So this is both coaches coached their last premiership and then haven't won another final. Alistair Clarkson hasn't won another final, and Damien Hardwick to this stage hasn't either. They won't play finals.
That's 3 years after winning their
So this will be
final.
the third year. And so this is where the game sits right now. So they're in a similar list position. Similarities about list development can go on. We can pluck out O'Meara and Mitchell and Wingard and the Tigers Taranto and Hopper and Robbie Tarrant. Revolt goes probably into this year. Cochin goes at the end of the year. Robbie Tarrant may or may not go. So the question is, as I said, no one's sacking Damien Hardwick because he's been, but no one was sacking Alistair Clarkson after this period of time either. So is it time now to sit here right now and go, okay, is Damien Hardwick, if he says he is, he gets the job, no worry, but is it right for him to go, okay, can I go back to the well? Can I look at this side without those stars and rebuild? The players had 8 players under 50 games on the weekend. Tyler Sonsi amongst them, Cumberland nice, but not superstar talent jumping off the page. They got no first-round draft pick this year. So does Damien Hardwick sit back now and go, yep, this is what I need. I need this to go again. 14 years in the job in one time.
Well, if we heard his post-match, his words and his emotion indicates that he's still invested in the football club. Absolutely. And that's what good character people do. But I think when you get to this stage of the evolution of a team, and you've got to assume that there's potentially a little bit of a dip now before Richmond come back. This is about when clubs make change in coaching, in leadership and in coaching tenure. They've got to have the conversation. Anyone in this position will be having the conversation together saying, have you got the energy to go through this dip and come through the other side? Do we believe that you're the right guy to do that? And those conversations will take place behind closed doors. I would suggest if you have a season that started like this, 1 win in 7, you're going to have those. You're going to have those conversations.
And so, can you be the coach delivering a messaging in your 14th and 15th and 16th year again?
Well, is it a situation like an Adam Simpson, where obviously he's committed for the dip? Yeah, they've had that chip, and they've had that chat and committed to the rebuild there as the coach that was the premiership coach a few years ago.
We heard Adam Simpson talking about it a couple of weeks ago, saying that I've got the energy, I've been supported by the club, we're going to go through, we're going to turn the list over, we've got to change the way we play so that we can be competitive again. Back in time, like Kevin Sheedy was one that went through a couple of little dips, but he only had 2 seasons when he was less than 50% win-loss ratio over the first 24 years of his... And he only missed finals 5 years out of those 24. So there wasn't really much of a dip to be having those conversations at the time.
So he's contracted for 2024. Where are you suggesting that he might go? The industry chatter around is that the Gold Coast need a senior statesman.
Well, the good news for Gold Coast and for Kenny Hinkley and Port Adelaide is that they're winning. Gold Coast win 2 on the bounce. No one wants to talk about it. Kenny wins 3 on the bounce, and any suggestion that he's out of the job, you get your head lopped off. So I think the coaching fraternity, my own opinion is that we are wedded to coaches for too long. And we saw it with Leon Cameron as the classic case. Your good self Bucks, even with coming the duration, been magnificent. So no one's given more to Richmond than Damien Hardwick. And as I said, he got the right to call time whenever he wants. But it's a conversation where progressive clubs can look at it and go, well, look at Alistair Clarkson, no one better. He stayed another year. The win-loss, his win-loss just kept going down and down until it blew up. So you don't want to get to that.
Would Richmond fans be worried about that? What happens at Richmond if they lose their president, their CEO, their best 2 players, and of course their 3-time premiership coach?
Well, new coaches are having a pretty good run. So McRae replaces himself and has Brad Scott's having a good run. Rossi Lyon's having a good run. So yeah, you can be worried about what's in the future. and worried about what's over the fence. But hey, it's some results have been had.
Brownie's old coach Lee Matthews.
You're bringing it up for us.
Said that 10 years was about the level.
I think he said 7 years, and then
Did he?
He took a 3-year extension at 7 years. But I think talent's king. My old coach Lee Matthews used to say, talent's king, and he's right. And you look at, you made up the point, Gaz, earlier on in the conversation. Richmond's under 50 game players. You're looking at that because we need the A-graders. If you're going to win flags or be up the top 4, you need A-graders to replace the Dusties, the Cotchins, the Jackson, all that. And at the moment, the guys under the 50 games, the names here, Clark, Young, Ralph Smith, Mansell, Ryan, Miller, Sonsi, we're not convinced yet. Now, hopefully they can get to that. Some of them can, Gaz, but we're not convinced. And that's the difference between Geelong, who had the good young blokes come through last year, but can you replace the A-graders like a Dusty Martin? That's the thing, Gaz.
Richmond entered this season knowing that the bottom half of their list was green as.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of bringing Hopper and Taranto in, and it was part of trying to see where they could take Grimes, where they could take Cochin, Rewalt, and whether they could have one last crack at it. Now, there's a price to pay with that, and maybe we're seeing it now because they just don't have the skeleton for the young blokes to even be performing off.
The bookends.
The bookends in particular, Ryan down one end and Young down the other. Yeah. So their midfield stuff had been okay, but they just don't have the bookends to be able to build off.
Did they get seduced by what Geelong did last year? Geelong, the oldest premiership team in history, did they get seduced by that, thinking, we can do this? The guys have got one more shot in them.
I don't know. They were only... We saw that 2-point loss in the final to Brisbane. And that's what it looked like. And in the end, they only lost that final by...
They did lose a heap of games,
by an
arc decision. An arc decision and Joe Danaher kicks a goal with 1 minute on the clock. So they nearly won a final, that final that Clarko didn't get. Yeah. And that was 2018, 3 years after he'd finished top 4 and went out in straight sets in the final.
Hey, the conversation may not be had at all. I think it would be. I hope it is. Good progressive clubs would be having the conversation right now.
And the reason you'd have it is so Damien Howick's contracted to the end of 24?
Yep, end of next year.
Yeah, so it's not an 18-month process. So now you have that chat. So you work out to make sure the coaching tenure fits what the club needs. The
coaching landscape is fluid. That's the best word, is fluid. So don't think the Gold Coast is locked away forever or Port Adelaide. It will move and change.
A few changes next year.
Well, it's fluid.
Oh, okay. You know something, Gary.
No, how many changes? Prediction. How many changes?
3.
Yeah, 3.
We'll keep discussing them. We'll stop discussing them when they stop sacking them.
That's right. Hey, good on you, Ralphie. Appreciate it.
That'll never happen.